This is Tanya Taylor Rubenstein of Somatic Author, and today we're going to break down memoir versus nonfiction. How do you decide which of the two books you want to write? So here's the thing, right? You know you have a story. Likely it's been living inside you for years, really all your life. But you've got some particular life experiences. Um, a narrative arc, something you've gone through that is really transformational. Perhaps there's an ancestral history you're interested in, or just some kind of very hard-won truth of moving through um, an impactful situation and coming out the other side. These can be connected to heroines' journeys, heroes' journeys, three-act structures, all different kinds of things. But you know you've got this potent story to tell. And you're wondering, should I write a memoir? Or is this an actually a nonfiction book? And is there any kind of um, gray area between those two? So I want to talk about the two genres first, of memoir and a straight nonfiction book, because um, they're much more different than many people realize. And choosing the wrong one, the wrong structure, can leave you sort of flailing around, not knowing how to move forward with your book. So today, let's take a few minutes here so I can help you figure out which path is actually yours. So I want to talk about the core difference here. Okay. So a memoir is a personal story told through your own phenomenological experience. That means through your body, through your direct experience. And a nonfiction book may include your personal stories, but it's primarily using information, um, storytelling as research, sometimes other people's experiences to to teach something, to actually, yeah, to teach something. So by the end of the book, you have acquired a new understanding or skill that you didn't know at the beginning of the book. In the memoir, you are the protagonist, right? Your interior life combined with an external kind of journey is what matters, right? And your inner life, what do I mean by that? Uh, your inner thoughts, your wisdom, the metaphor through which you make meaning, grief, transformation, your intimate world. You're revealing that. And it's a mixture of, not because it's kind of popular in the writing for all movements, this idea of show, not tell. Natalie Goldberg, among many other great writers and writing teachers, popularized that. But this memoir is a show and tell. So you're showing, through the external experience you're going through. Let's think, a year in your life, or a period going through a divorce, or a period moving through, a life challenging illness, or a falling in love, a love story. You're combining the inner and outer life here, the show and tell, right? And the reader goes on this journey with you. And some examples of these that I use with my students that you may have heard of, The Glass Castle, of course, Cheryl Strayed's Wild, Joy Harjo's Crazy Brave, When Breath Becomes Air. All of these books and so many more, they're deeply intimate, they're deeply personal, and they're that combination, that titration, that story weaving of your inner and outer lives. The nonfiction book, you know, uh, in if you move towards narrative, right? Nonfiction, you as a protagonist might still be present and sharing some of your experience, but you are also stepping back, sticking with your own voice, but stepping back to serve a larger idea, or the audience need, the reader's needs. You become, and this is very important in terms of a shift, you become their guide, not the main character. Some examples of this that are well known include Braiding Sweetgrass or the new Jim Crow. There's some wonderful sort of narrative nonfiction writing books, including The True Secret of Writing by Natalie Goldberg, um, Big Magic by Liz Gilbert. They're serving the big idea while their voice is still very present. So let's talk about number two here. Um, in terms of, yeah, figuring out your methodology. So I'm going to give you a few questions. Question number one, and this is important to answer each of these, they will help you determine really what is the structure for your book. Who is this book primarily for? If the answer is, and this is okay if it is, by the way, yourself, to sort of heal, to process, to leave something for your family, that points towards memoir. But it can be a literary memoir, of course, where you have a story that is based on a time period, one event, a situation in your life that was transformational that you want to serve others with by sharing your specific intimate journey. Okay, so this also points to memoir. If your answer in terms of who the book is primarily for is more about a person who is facing some kind of a challenge that you have experience with or seeking knowledge, and you want to teach them, you want to ask them questions, you want to help them get in a process of moving through this challenge and giving them some guidance, that points towards nonfiction. Okay? That points towards nonfiction. Next, you want to think about what is the central promise of this book? So in memoir, the promise, and it's often unstated, but it needs to be there, but it is emotional, it's intimate, it's experiential. There's kind of a invitation, come inside of my life and be changed by what you witness. Be changed by what you experience through my experience that I share. In nonfiction, the promise is also transformational. We want both experiences to be transformational. That's what the reader signs up for, to take them along on this journey. But it's also a bit more tangible, practical in a way. Read this and you'll be able to do something you couldn't before. Read this book and you're going to step into your stronger writer's voice. Read this book, and I'm thinking of my friend Mary Gaucher, Saved by a Song. Read this book and, learn the art and craft of songwriting while hearing about my life, right? Question number three here, where does the authority come from? Right? In memoir, your authority comes from having lived the experience, people, period. Nobody can question your authority if it is your direct experience. That's why memoir is phenomenological. You've lived it through the body. In nonfiction, this can again translate into you've lived this through your body and you have pieces of that to share, but your authority comes from your experience, your teaching, your research, through examples, sometimes through creating exercises, right? Though lived experience can certainly deepen it, you are still primarily interested in a teaching here to your readers, a teaching for your readers, which takes you back to nonfiction. And think about the structure you're drawn to. Memoir follows a narrative arc, a beginning, middle, and end rooted in real events. And I just want to throw in here that I do believe for all first-time writers, memoir writers, and even memoir writers who've written several books, there needs to be a chronological arc, beginning, middle, and end. That doesn't mean you can't have flashbacks and flash forwards and things out of time that can be woven in, but the main narrative arc is chronological with a beginning, middle, and end, rooted again in real life events. Nonfiction is organized around concepts, a framework, a methodology that you've developed, and have likely taught your students or clients. And now you're sharing it with the readers. So that's an entirely different structure. Now, just to make things, I don't want to make things any more complex, but I do want to add this other option here, which is kind of a beautiful gray area. And here's what I want you to hear now. You don't always have to choose one. And some of the most powerful books end up blending both forms. And many, many of my own clients end up choosing this blended form, which I refer to as hybrid nonfiction, right? So hybrid nonfiction weaves your personal story into your broader teaching and offering. A memoir can also absolutely include things like cultural context, even a framework for healing, historical research, right? In some ways, the question is always which is in service of the other. Which one also, it's very important to tune into which one excites you more. The personal story, right, in service of a bigger idea that would include your methodology, that leans towards hybrid nonfiction. And or is it your sort of bigger idea and teaching, deepening the reader's understanding of your personal story? That leans towards memoir, right? And one exercise here you can do, and I often have my students and clients writing, sort of the same thing in two different ways or in two different voices, two different styles. You can write a preliminary chapter in each form, and you're going to feel which one feels like home for this book, like the space that's being held for this book. You're going to feel it somatically and in your body. So, in closing, here's where I'll leave you. Don't get stuck in a label. Do get clear on your reader, your promise, your authority, your big why for writing this book, and the form will start to reveal itself to you. And I hope this really helped you just walking through those four questions, and using those as writing prompts. And I want to say, if you're working on a book right now, go ahead and drop a comment. I'd love to hear what you're working on and how it's going. And until next time, keep writing the thing that lights you up and is also the thing that only you can write.